Okay, so another boxing related video. Huge heavyweight clash tomorrow. Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. Now, I've just watched the BT Sports face off, presumably in Britain, London. Don't know exactly, but one of the most lively and entertaining face offs I've ever seen. Now, at these things, especially for big fights, you always expect a bit of psychology going on, but with these two, what you have is a huge amount of charisma, a huge amount of ego, and two unbeaten fighters. Not to say that there haven't been other unbeaten fighters, like, of course, Golovkin, Canelo, but to have these two guys in the heavyweight division, I mean, Deontay Wilder 40 and 0, Tyson Fury 27 and 0. If I was going solely on the face-off, I would say Fury had a slight edge. I think he slightly outsmarted Wilder, but I only say slightly because I think both guys are very quick on their feet. They're very sharp in terms of being debating pugilists. It was a very interesting exchange. At several points, it felt like two preachers, two evangelist preachers, kind of trying to get each other to see the light. I mean, it was very entertaining, quite amusing at points. But this is no game. I mean, these are two big punchers. Um, in terms of the KO percentage, I think Wilder probably has the edge. But in terms of the CV, in terms of who they have beaten, if we think of the biggest names that Wilder has beaten, probably, I don't know, Luis Ortiz, I guess, would be the biggest name that immediately comes to mind. Bermane was a rated fighter at the time. He's kind of went down the charts a little bit. But Tyson Fury, I mean, you don't get much bigger than Vladimir Klitschko. Tyson Fury, of course, is the lineal champion, and Deontay Wilder, the WBC champion. At one point, it was very almost between pathetic and entertaining when they started talking about what they were wearing. Um, I think Fury had the upper hand when he was talking about alter egos. Um, but then I think he lost points when he started criticizing the way Wilder was dressed. Like, that is what makes a fighter. It's not. That's just silly. There's plenty of fighters that dress smartly, like Fury does, and well, not great fighters. So I think that's totally irrelevant. Um, but this one's very hard to call. I suspect that it will cause a lot of bias. It's a British American clash in the same way that Lewis Tyson was. And I think it's certainly the biggest heavyweight clash since Joshua-Klitschko just over a year ago, a year and a half ago now. I just hope it lives up to the hype. I mean, you have two exciting fighters, two fighters with huge charisma, and I just hope it lives up to that. I can't watch it, of course, I don't have pay-per-view, but who am I rooting for? Well, the British side of me, it would be great to see a British unified world heavyweight champion. Um, but I think Fury would make a mistake to underestimate Wilder. I think he's sort of treating Wilder like just another heavyweight. I think that's a mistake. Of the two men, I think Fury is underestimating Wilder more than I don't think Wilder's underestimating Fury. Um, Now, I've underestimated Fury before. I think he's a hell of a force in the world of boxing. And if he does pull it off, it will be among the great heavyweight comebacks of all time, up there with the likes of George Foreman. So I think it's really hard to call. I know a lot of British fans are dismissing it as, Wilder's going to be knocked out easily. I don't think so. Um, Fury, by his own admission, has been hurt before, so I don't know. It's going to be interesting. And like I said, it's a British American clash, so that also adds spice to it. One thing is for damn sure no one can honestly say that the heavyweight division is dead these days. There was a period sort of in the 2000s and, well, let's say the late 2000s and early 2010s, when there was some validity to the argument that the heavyweight division, at least at world level, was not that exciting. There were some great domestic British fights, like Hay Chisora, but it's fair to say that because of the Klitschko dominance, and I'm a huge Vladimir Klitschko fan, it was a little bit boring compared to the golden eras of the 1970s and 1990s. I honestly believe the heavyweight division is back in a sort of golden era. I really believe that because you get guys like this who just bring so much entertainment to the sport. Like them or loathe them, that's irrefutable. So it would be very disappointing if this is a boring fight. Um, Time will tell what happens, you know. Uh, if Wilder loses, then he'll be seen as a good fighter, not a great fighter, because there's no one on his record that really stands out as an all-time great. Fury has already beaten an all-time great in Vladimir Klitschko. Now, maybe Klitschko was past his best, but he is one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, in the top 10 easily. If Fury pulls this off, well, if Wilder pulls this off, I think BoxRec and other sources will need to recognise him as a much better heavyweight. I mean, as it stands, BoxRec ranks Wilder somewhere around late 30s, or even lower. I think they've gotten way down in the 60s among all-time heavyweights, and that may be justified given that he's a lot of, he hasn't really proven anything in terms of the guys he's fought. None of them, to me, stand out as all-time greats, and that's no disrespect to the likes of Luis Ortiz and others, but none of them really stand out as all-time greats. Fury has beaten all-time greats. Um, if Fury wins this, it would be hard to argue that Fury doesn't have a very real claim to being the greatest British heavyweight ever. And I'm even including the great Lennox Lewis there. I mean, really, to beat Vladimir Klitschko and then to beat an undefeated 40-0 hard-hitting fighter like Deontay Wilder, you'd be hard pushed to, I really do think at the very least Fury should be considered the second greatest British heavyweight after Lewis. And above Joshua, the Joshua Fury fight, of course, and the Joshua Wilder fight will determine a lot of things. So it's going to be interesting. If you're American, you're probably rooting for Wilder. If you're British, you're probably rooting for Fury. I think it's that sort of fight. I honestly don't know. Um, there's times I really don't like Tyson Fury's personality because, I mean, at one point he was talking about Wilder bullying Billy Joe Saunders because he's a middleweight, but it's a bit rich for Tyson Fury to talk about bullying when he's the biggest trash talker in the sport. So that's a bit laughable, really. But it's going to be interesting. Let me know your thoughts. Tyson Fury, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, the biggest heavyweight clash of 2018, possibly one of the biggest of modern times. I think it might rank second only to Joshua-Klitschko as the biggest heavyweight fight of the 2010s. I don't think we're going to beat Joshua-Klitschko for sheer skill, but it might be second. It might be second. Be interesting to see what happens.